Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the Here Be Dragons YouTube channel. Really glad you could make it. Yes, we're going Saturday night, not Sunday night as per usual. And we'll address as to why here in a moment. So if you're watching live, there's not a whole lot of you yet. Hopefully it'll pick up now that we're actually live. But thanks for making it. And if you are expecting to see this on Sunday, I hope you enjoy watching it in the rewatch. But I'm joined by two people who are becoming pretty normal fixtures. You know them from the Expanse streams. You've got John and Bernie coming back. Say hi, guys.
Hi, everyone.
And then making her triumphant return, longtime friend of the channel, Sanri. First, I know that nerd I ever did.
Yep, that's me. I'm the nerdiest of nerds.
Yep.
Pop the cherry.
While we're on that subject, thank you for that. It was really nice to have a good friend to do the first one with, because I was super nervous. But
you're fine. It was fun.
It was a lot of fun, though. You set a high bar for everyone that came after you.
Oh, that's okay. Sure.
I mean, I've had better friends, but you did set a high bar.
Anna is already asking about Loop Man, so I hope someone has an answer for that.
Oh, there is a huge answer. Okay, so before we get into that, yes, we're discussing Watchmen. We will be discussing as much as we can about this show with no prearranged format. We're just going to spitball between some friends. And
I really don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you do.
I have things that I want to make sure I say, but it's done like episode by episode, like we've been doing with the Expanse, because I think this story is a bigger piece of art anyway. But if we don't cover it all in 2 hours, if people want to do a part 2, we're going to do a part 2. So
I would have started some kind of a outline for the discussion. If not for the fact that I spent the last 24 hours rewatching the entire show. So
you are prepped then, my dude. We're totally good. I watched a bunch of it too. Yeah,
I watched a bunch yesterday too.
So it's very George R.R. Martin-esque, because when you watch it again, at least watch the foods. There's so much my mouth open the whole
Oh my god.
There really is a lot of layers to it.
It's
and they start setting things up going back to they start setting things up going back to like even the first episode, and I've caught so many more Easter eggs like on the rewatch than I did the first time. And I caught a lot the first time, like an incredible amount, but you pay attention to it from the beginning to the end. You gotta rewatch it. Is what I'm saying. Like, you have to rewatch it.
I agree. So Anna did ask about Loop Man. Oh,
but then
sorry.
Did.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
So,
do I have a lag?
Maybe a little bit.
Do you want me to come back, restart, or? Sorry.
I can't tell if you do have lag or not.
All right. Someone in the chat say something if I'm not. But anyway, go ahead.
I just wanted, Anna asked about Lube Man. There is actually an answer for that, but it's tied into a lot of the like online supplemental stuff that they were doing. So there is an answer, and it's a pretty clear answer, but it's not in the show.
Nope.
And actually, I was also reading an interview with Damon Lindelof, where he said that it's also unanswered in the show itself for the purpose of, a future season, whether that's him doing it or not.
Right.
Do we think that there's going to be a second season? Like,
I think there will be. The question is whether he's going to be involved or not.
God, I hope he is.
Well, here's what I listened to the official podcast, and he said that the events in Charlottesville, he was going to do this, and then Charlottesville happened, and he said, I have to do something that's relevant to the times now and America for a long time, So he said about a second season, he kind of needs a catalyst to get him moving to do it. So he needs a muse, and all artists do. He's not saying he's not. He's not saying he is. So
Yeah, because I don't think he wants to tackle the same kind of thematic, material or subject. He needs it to be something that's as original as what he did with the first season, because he feels like
And
that's what's
political.
so
And
Yeah.
relevant.
and because he feels like that's integral to what Watchmen is. And I don't think he just wants to continue on with a second season of what was established, this year.
Yeah, this one season of television is kind of like it's a work of art to me.
It really is.
The way that, because the themes and really just the themes, I guess, but they're drawn throughout every aspect of that show.
Yeah, it's really well put together.
We lost Bernie for a second.
She was lagging. She'll come right back. Uh-oh, the three-way camera. That sounded terrible. But yeah, the themes. Are we going to answer her question? Are we going to tell her who it was?
I mean, we can.
So we should start by interrupting this and saying, are we going to do spoilers or not?
I think we have to.
We have to do spoilers.
So
okay.
If you haven't watched the show, please go watch the show and then come back and watch this later.
We want to talk to you about it. Damn it.
Yeah, and ask me questions on Twitter if you want. My Twitter is down in the description. Everybody's Twitter is down in the description, by the way. Feel free to ask, because there's a lot going on in this show.
There's so much.
But yes, who is Lube Man?
Dun dun dun. It's Petey.
It's Petey.
Which, by the way, on the rewatch, it's so funny because he tags along with Angela and Lori right after the encounter he has with Angela as Lube Man. So It's really funny watching him be sort of skittish around her.
Right.
And the actual evidence from that comes from a letter that was released inter-officely in the FBI, in this faux FBI world, Angela. And it basically says like he had folders on his computer full of, what was it, like Watchmen erotica, if I remember correctly. Which
and they found like bottles
amazing.
of
canola oil like substance. Yeah. And so they said it was, like him, and he was reassigned, but he's gone missing or something. So that's one of those things that they left open. I hope they bring him back for a second season.
Which, by the way, I'd just say how much I love that they did that online supplemental material, echoing the original graphic novel, which has the excerpts from Hollis Mason's book and all that stuff. So it's
one of Night Owl's. So you've read the comic. Great.
Well, I've read half of it. I was really going strong on it, and I probably would have tried to finish that in time for this, but it was either the rewatch or finish the graphic novel.
That's totally fine. But
you have the rewatch.
You have, so they have Hollis Mason in there. They also have a paper that Night Owl wrote about ornithology, as he studies birds. So if you guys didn't catch that, Laurie Blake has an owl. That's definitely a callback to Dan, which, by the way, is anybody else wondering where he is? Because I think I figured it out. I figured it out.
You think you know like what prison they're holding him in or whatever?
No, I was just gonna say that he was in prison because I didn't catch that on the first time. I was just like paying attention to everything in the room and like fixating on the owl and stuff. I didn't realize when he said like I could get your owl out of that cage, that was just Dan's in prison. I took it more as like what?
A little bit more literally. Huh?
I was like, wait, did Dr. Manhattan make him an owl? Like, because you never know. Everybody's talking about this show and how mind-blowing it is, and I'm like, what's gonna be not expected?
Yeah, because you didn't start until most of it was already aired. Is that right?
Do we want to talk about it?
You can.
Is my tattoo showing? Okay, so do you know what this is?
Here, hold up. Let's
I can't do this.
Yeah, it's a Rorschach symbol.
Yeah, it's a Rorschach symbol. So I've had this since probably like 2011, 2012, something like that. And I absolutely am a huge fangirl of the comic. And Dave Gibbons, who does the art, is absolutely incredible. There's so much like in the color, and I could go on for hours about that, so I won't. So, but anyway, the point of what I'm saying is I'm a huge Watchmen fan. So when I first saw this, like, very beginning trailers, like there was a trailer when we were at Ice and Fire Con earlier this year, and I was just like screaming. I was so excited about it because I try to keep myself ignorant of some things like that because I'm afraid of what they will do with stuff that's very near and dear to my heart. So Rorschach is not meant to be a good guy, and basically he just wants justice. And in my opinion, he's like always sticks to his morals, and that's why he died in the books. So spoiler alert, if you haven't read the comic or watched the Zack Snyder film, he dies, which is why he's not in the TV show. So when I saw that there were people running around in Rorschach masks and, like heard the internet gossip, if you will, I was like, wait, he's racist now? And like, I was just very scared of what they were going to do with that storyline. Because in my opinion, he's not racist. I think Jeff and Emmett make an argument that he could be. He's definitely like got issues. He was raised by a sex worker who didn't want to have him and constantly like told him that. So there's a lot to his character.
Right.
And the closest thing that we have in the current Watchmen is definitely Looking Glass. It's almost like some instances there's just like shot for shot recreations of panels in the comic. If you've seen the film, you know certain things like Rorschach eating the beans, Looking Glass eating the beans. Same energy.
She's absolutely right, and Linda Hoff actually said that.
Yeah,
Right.
There's one part when he's in that like tunnel thing, whatever, the capsule, whatever you call it, and
The pod.
the Rorschach is right on his face. Like it's like they pretty much tell you. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and to
So,
be completely to be completely honest, I haven't like read anything about it because I literally did wait until the last minute, watched it all in a week and binged it the day before the premiere and then watched the last episode. And I haven't like read any articles on it. I didn't know that there were like extras they were releasing until you guys literally just said that. So that's what I'm going to be doing later this evening.
And I do recommend, I know Bernie has listened to them, but for anybody who hasn't listened to the official podcast, it's 3 episodes where they interview Lindelof, and it's a lot of great information. So I recommend it.
Truly is.
Yeah. Okay. I'll give that a shot because
Did we bring up Night Owl?
Yeah.
we did a little bit.
What do you think,
So,
Bernie?
He's in jail.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and they show him though, she's feeding a mouse to an owl, obviously. But let me tell you that almost every Angela shot in the first 3 episodes and some of Laurie's shots, there is an owl. She's drinking out of an owl coffee cup. There is an owl on the dry erase board in Topher's room. There's an owl, like everywhere you look. It was crazy. And they guess
there's also weird. I'm sorry, Bernie. Go ahead.
He made those flying owls. Like that was his contribution.
Artemis, the ship. God, what was the ship's name? I'm forgetting it. Archie. Thank you. Yeah. So the owl ship. The whole first scene when or in the first episode when they go after the 7th Cavalry and it's Angela and Red Scare and Pirate Jenny and everybody, and Pirate Jenny and Judd are in the damn owl ship. The way that he says, the way Rorschach is reflected in the show is what you're talking about with the owls, like the little secret hidden clues. The way Rorschach is reflected is in the dialogue and some of the scene setup, like too. Like there's in the comic, it's like, don't mean to interfere with piloting of ship, Dan, but I suggest you pull up when he's like, higher, higher, higher is what Judd's doing. So it's like, it's like the same idea. That's when Rorschach and Night Owl are approaching Karnak to go confront Ozymandias.
Did you see the Warhol on Lori Blake? I was like, oh my God, it's so awesome. Right behind is Ozymandias, Night Owl, and
it's Ozymandias, Night Owl, Laurie, and Dr. Manhattan. And Andy Warhol is actually in the Zack Snyder film too, making the paintings of Night Owl, and they're all just Night Owls. I think they do it in the comic.
I missed that.
Oh my God, that's awesome! He's my favorite.
Yeah, you're a Dan fan, Dan Stan?
No, Andy Warhol.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah,
But
no,
I gotta
maybe
say,
he
there
still
was
lived in this world. Oh my
there
god,
was
he
a
lived a little longer.
lot going on in the background because there were owls. There was also a lot of squids in the background. There was also lettuce in the background. Like
There was so much eggs.
eggs
so
were
many eggs.
everywhere. Like there's a shot when when Angela, it's from the final episode, and it's just rained a bunch of frozen squid, and they're walking out of the Dreamland Theater, and some of the lights are smashed,
Mm-hmm.
and it says DRM.
Yep.
So it's she's literally walking out under the M, and it's telling you she's
Dr.
going to be
Manhattan.
Dr. Manhattan. It's crazy the way this show did that with so
And it
many
does it
things.
well. It does it right from the get go because she's constantly bathed in blue light.
Blue
and,
light all the
and
time.
you just
All
you
the
just
time,
don't pick up on it.
How did I not see it? The blue lighting all over the place. Definitely.
Yep. So
And
Even the music, everything was about time, pretty much. Any music that they used was kind of about the passage of time. Like it was just, it's a piece of fucking art.
it really is.
And can I just say that I am not a fan of electronic music that much. I'm very much a classical fan and orchestral music, but the music that was done by 9 Inch Nails for this show was freaking amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just gets under your skin. It was great.
For sure.
indeed, there was a lot to love about this show, a whole lot. But I think for me, one of the things that really struck me the most was just how relatable some of these characters are, especially someone like, I mean, I don't know if we should call him Wade Tillman, if we should call him Looking Glass or
LG.
Mirror Guy.
Mirror Guy. I love to call him Mirror Guy.
Which, by the way, I was just watching the final episode a little bit ago, and I just cracked up that in the midst of all this shit going down, when she's sitting there and she goes, "Mirror Guy," and he still goes, "It's Looking Glass."
Yep.
That actor was actually born in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's a cool little fact.
Can we talk about how Laurie Blake has basically become the comedian?
We can, but
After we talk about Looking Glass?
well,
Is that where you were going?
yeah, because I see Sanri, we didn't say anything about this to everybody that was here at the beginning, but you're doing arty stuff.
Oh yeah, yes I am. In the background.
In the background. Can we
Working
see your
from the
art?
shadows.
Are
Yes.
you all right to show your art for a minute?
Yeah, we can
Right.
do that.
Well, I'm gonna put you up on screen then. With
Anybody want to take a guess on who I'm drawing?
yeah,
It's pretty obvious.
it is.
I know there's a lot of blue. Don't get confused.
Right. That is exactly Mirror Guy.
It's Mirror Guy. That poor fucking precious child.
I loved that character. I think he was my favorite character in the whole show, to be
I was
honest
going to
with you.
say, if that's Yaya, it's his wrong side you're drawing.
Right.
Yaya?
Woo! That's his name. Dr. Manhattan, or what's his Cal?
Cal A.
Cal?
Barnes.
Yeah, or
His
John.
real- yeah, that actor's name is Yahya Abdul Mateen.
Yeah, this is before he assumes Cal's form.
Props
However
to
you
him
did
for
that.
all that full frontal nudity.
Yep. Not on air.
Thank
Okay.
you, sir.
Well, I pulled it. It's a work in progress right now, but you guys ought to know Sanri is fantastic. Love your art. Always.
Thank you.
Always have. But you know what? I'm not here to dominate the conversation. I just wanted to show off your art for a second. So if you want to talk about how Laurie Blake has become the comedian, the floor is yours.
Well, do you guys feel like I'm onto something here? Because what really got me was a lot of her lines, especially her joke, which was amazing and so well done. And you guys know the one I'm talking about. She started
took her a
with the
while.
little girl in the brick. It did. It took her like the whole episode to tell one damn joke.
Which, by the way, is why I commented on online that even though it's not the most obvious episode, but that might be my favorite episode just because of the way the whole thing is framed around her telling a joke, and it's so well constructed. But sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
Is that killed by space junk?
Mm-hmm.
She was killed by space junk? Okay.
Yeah, it's like the fourth or the third episode.
I think that's fourth.
Yeah, that's the one I'm close. I think I just watched that one last when I was trying to rewatch. And she just like really like, first of all, she took Blake's name, which is like a weird way of honoring him and also honoring her mother's wishes, I guess. Which if you guys don't know, her mom is Sally Jupiter. I believe that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because and she was the first Silk Spectre. So
right.
Laurie was Silk Spectre 2, who hung out with Night Owl and Rorschach and Dr. Manhattan, and I think that was it. But so she basically has become the exact opposite of what she was before. She went from being like super naive to being like really jaded and hunting down people who do what she used to do. So the comedian in the comic works for the government and is part of the war to win Vietnam.
Right. But isn't he like he and Dr. Manhattan are the only ones who are allowed to be
because the
superheroes?
Yeah, basically they're the only ones allowed to be superheroes. So like he's like basically a government puppet. So she has become, oddly enough, an FBI agent hunting down mass vigilantes. So I definitely think there's something there. I need to think about it more. But the way she delivers her joke, the last line she says is "roll on snare drum" right as they're getting ready to like pull up to the funeral, and that's a mirror for mirror shot of when Rorschach tells the joke about Pagliacci, the clown, and the joke is like a man goes to a doctor and he's really sad and he says, "Doctor, I'm so depressed. What can I do?" And the doctor says, "Well, the answer's simple. The cure's simple. Go see the great clown Pagliacci." And the man breaks down, starts crying, and is like, "But doctor, I am Pagliacci. Roll on snare. Good joke." And that's like line for line delivered by Laurie Blake. And she adds her own little flair to it. I can't remember what it was, but I was like, so there are hints of Rorschach left. And I think like part of that's why she picked Petey, because he had pulled up Rorschach's journal way longer. Anybody have any thoughts on that, Bernie? You saw the movie. It's
Bernie,
very similar.
I know. I'm trying. My kid is like over here talking to me. I'm like, anyway. I don't know. I thought she kind of was a little predatory. I don't know. She kind of picked that guy. I think she kind of used Petey a little bit, like she's like, oh, this guy's a fanboy. I can get him to do whatever I want, and I think that she's just a smart woman. I mean, it's obviously she knows what the fuck she's doing. Yeah. And, she got right down to the bottom of everything, but she does definitely remind me of her father. I did see the movie. We didn't talk about yet who from the movie I thought portrayed like seamlessly into the show was Matthew Good's Ozymandias to Jeremy Irons' Ozymandias. And I don't know if it's just they're both Englishmen, Jeremy Irons has a better American accent by far. I don't know how he was keeping it talking to Crookshanks and Phillips and still talking in an American accent. I'm like, oh man, that's good. But no, I felt like that was kind of seamless between those two, and they almost kind of he looks like an older Matthew Good. But Jeremy Irons, could be. Oh my God, I think Jeremy Irons might have stole the show. I don't know.
Again,
besides Regina King is queen. I mean that she can act the shit. She can have any part, and that woman is just amazing for a long time. And so she's number one, but then I'll say Jeremy Irons is my second favorite for sure. And even though he's an asshole, but I like assholes, so
he's the biggest of the assholes.
He's a big asshole, but I kind of like bad guys sometimes. He's an anti-hero, maybe I'll call him, but he does fuck up things. But yeah, I
think I would agree with you in that I think Regina King and Jeremy Irons turned in the best performances. And don't get me wrong, everybody in that show really showed up to do their job, but I really think those two kind of like took it to the next level. You know, they were arguably the two leads of the show in a lot of ways. But I still think, but man, Mirror Guy, there's so much going on there. I bet I could.
You can relate to him. You guys are from the South. I know you two relate to him.
You two, you relate to him so much.
It's more than that.
John is from Florida, but we don't count that.
No.
The thing is, he's got that accent, which people, let's be honest, when you hear the
he was
accent,
endearing.
But when you hear that accent, a lot of times people think you're stupid or you're uneducated because you have that type of accent. He was clearly very smart, very capable. He was also like, he always seemed so in control around other people, but like as they peel back the layers, you see that this is a man deeply scarred by his PTSD.
Yup.
To the point that
fuck yeah.
And that is a really compelling story to me. I think that's why I liked that character so much. And
his story was, that's why I feel like if they would have given me one more episodes, I would have zero bad things to say about the show. But I know that they left it open intentionally for the possibility of a second season. But his last shot, I wanted more. What happened with
I want you. Did you watch? You gotta watch it again. Will you please watch it again?
I'll watch it again. I'm watching it again. I told you that.
This show, I really can say I've never seen anything like it. And this coming from someone who doesn't read comic books.
Mm-hmm.
I have like a couple graphic novels.
No, you're not going to find this in comic books. You're not.
This is a storytelling like it's gorgeous. Hey, John, I have a question for you. Do you think, because you love award shows so much, do you think that this show is going to make it? Do you think that anyone's going to get nominated? What do you think? Are they going to skip over it because of what it is, or?
It's hard to say. I mean, I also just stopped trying to predict what award body is actually do, because there's no sense to it at all. But
the Grammys, I'll give you maybe.
On the one hand, the Emmys love HBO, so maybe. But on the other hand, it's going to be a long time between now and nominations for next year. So it might just pass out of their mind.
Yeah, that is. The timing is bad. That's
and also sure. It's a weird freaking show, and
it is.
But here's the thing:
I could see Jeremy Irons getting a nom. I really could, because, oh man, what a weird character! But he just killed it.
Ozymandias is such a complex character.
Let me say I love Jeremy Irons, and I am going to disagree with you, Bernie, about him and Matthew Good, because
don't you say anything bad about Matthew Good right now. I will go through that fucking screen and kill you.
I like Matthew Good a lot. I've pretty much enjoyed all of his other performances.
He's a utility man. He can do anything.
But in the Watchmen film, I'm sorry, I thought he was dull as a doornail. I really did, and he's my least favorite part of that adaptation.
Even the sex scene to Hallelujah and the owl ship. I mean, that was the worst part.
That part.
We were talking about Night Owl.
Well, I'm not a huge fan of the movie, period.
Well,
but the problem is that, Matthew Good is a lot hinges on Ozymandias in Watchmen. So, and I just felt like it wasn't a great performance, and especially since I've been reading the graphic novel, I just don't think that it's either the way he played it or maybe he just wasn't the right person for it. I just don't care for him in the role.
Do you think it could be Zack Snyder?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't on Zack Snyder, because I liked the movie a lot.
Yeah, I actually liked the movie too.
I liked it at the time because I was sort of into all these hyper real literal translations of graphic novels that were going on, like Sin City and all that. But in the time since, I don't know. Each time I've gone back to it, I've liked it less. And which is funny, because I gave this TV show a shot, and it's a completely different animal, and I just became obsessed with it. And it's what caused me to get the graphic novel and start reading it. And I'm in love with that. So I don't know. It's just, I think it's that I've become less of a fan of Snyder. So
I am glad to have seen it, to have a little backstory, to kind of know what the Easter eggs are.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful for that. And
It does, it does
ahead.
have one of the best studied in colleges title scenes.
yes,
Really?
I will admit to that. I
Yeah.
think the opening title is brilliant.
It's the one with the gosh, help me out, guys.
I don't even remember it.
It's got the times they are changing.
Yeah.
And
Oh
it like
my
covers
God.
the history of the Minutemen all the way through like up to the current time, and it's like shot in like it's very Zack Snydery. So if you don't like the like goofy like woo woo shots, yeah, you
Here's
probably
the
won't
thing,
like it,
some Zack Snyder I find to be fantastic. I don't know how many times I've seen 300, but like that. I see you over there, but like I do like the visual style for that particular adaptation, but like I don't enjoy what he's done with like DC heroes because they're too clean. You know what I mean? Like the base of them is very clean. Zack Snyder wants to make everything gritty and hyper realistic.
And actually, can I just say really quick? I love that the scenes of the television show version of the origin story of Hooded Justice were so like making fun of that super violent hyper real style that the Watchmen film kind of was all about. That's the way I interpreted those. It's not quite his same visual style, but a lot of the way the violence was done, and I felt like it was a slight dig at the movie.
I thought it was a dig at the movie, and I also thought it was like just a dig at like over glamorizing like things in the past. Like, and man, the hooded justice reveal was not one I saw coming. But like being that I've read the comic and I watched the Snyder film, there are hints in the comic book that Hooded Justice is gay, but I was pretty sure he was like a Russian circus actor or something. And
same thing, right?
Well, in the very beginning,
we don't care
when they play the like first couple minutes of the Minuteman and they show us like fake Hooded Justice, like he says something like, I was the Russian circus strongman and now I'm dead or whatever. So I was like, oh, hey, okay, yeah. So that was I love how they did that. I absolutely love that addition, change, retcon, whatever you want to call it. I think that was awesome.
It's really kind of brilliant the way they backed Louis Gossett Jr., Will Reeves, however you want to look at that character, into being Hooded Justice. And you don't even realize that that's a thing to be questioning in this.
Yeah.
I mean, you should.
You should.
But he's also 105 years old, and most people don't live to 105 years old. But like, the whole time I was constantly just like, who's that? Who's that? I know someone. Who's that? Trying to figure it out.
It seems like this time, I don't know, is it the 90s? No, it's supposed to be present day, right?
Yeah.
They don't have cell phones. They don't have, no one's on any kind of internet. There's nothing going on. But on TV, there's gay sex going on. I mean, certain things have really progressed in the right way, but other ways people are being policed, So I was like, oh, good for them for first of all having it and showing it, and including somebody. But
and the whole thing with and they delve a lot more into this in the supplemental online material. The thing with electronic devices is they've held all that back just because of the squid attack and the sort of what they believe caused contributed to the psychic blast and all that stuff. So they've really kind of put the lid on a lot of stuff that they're afraid will feed that.
For you, Bernie, since you watched the Snyder film, and Stephen, have you watched the Snyder film and did you read the book?
I read the book a long time ago.
Okay, so you remember that it was a squid?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so
I knew it was a squid.
For Bernie, how is that?
By the way,
Finding
How
out
is
that it
what?
wasn't Dr. Manhattan who nuked New York. It was a giant alien squid.
Well, I had to know, and he did. Well, you mean from the show to like?
Yeah, like
what?
finding or like did
I really didn't necessarily remember so much about it. I kind of came into this knowing the characters, but when I saw it, like how he explained it, and then how he was sent to the the moon of Jupiter, like that made sense to me. But I really didn't I really didn't retain that from the movie.
no, it was not in the movie. In the movie,
Oh
they had
no, I
Dr.
was just along for the
Manhattan.
ride.
Yeah, in the movie, they had Dr. Manhattan make
Was the one, and that it kind of confused me until I just watched it again. Like then I was able to really follow that. So that would be maybe one thing that they could have maybe I don't know. They could have cleared up better, but
Which, by the way, I love the fact that because I remember back when the movie came out and Snyder talked about, why they didn't do that, and there was a lot of talk from some fans. Well, it would be too out there, a giant squid. Who's going to take that seriously? And I love the fact that you've got episode 5 of this series. And it opens up with, the squid attack, and the camera pulls out. You've got this big, giant squid just sitting on all the buildings in New York. And then, it's freaking weird as all hell, but it's glorious.
It makes sense in the context. And I did appreciate when Snyder did comment on that originally. But at the time, it made sense. So what they had him do, Bernie, was it was basically Dr. Adrian Ozymandias replicated Dr. Manhattan's energy signal, so it looked like he attacked New York, and he actually attacked like 15 or 16 different cities around the world, and that's how they solved it in the movie. So he was trying to say, more afraid of nuclear war than we were of alien squids.
Which, so to his credit, sort of, thematically, that is actually a pretty elegant, alternative,
especially at the time. Yeah. So that's why I was like, oh, okay, that makes that I can get down with that. Like I can accept that change from the comic book. But the squids, the whole time I watched the series Watchmen, I knew where the squids came from and I knew the truth. And I was just like, man, like, how is this all going to come out? How is it going to be revealed? And then the whole thing with the tape and poor Looking Glass, like it just like, rips the reflectitine off and is like, well, fuck me. I lost my wife over this shit. I was like, oh, my heart breaks for you, buddy. Like,
yeah.
Oh.
And what's great is I was reading an interview with Tim Blake Nelson where he actually said, and the thing about that moment is that it's not like revealing the truth is, sort of removing his trauma. It's a secondary trauma, finding out the truth.
Yes.
So it's just all the worse for him.
Yeah, it's just that he just had a really fucking bad day. And I was waiting for them to like reveal because going back to why I wanted more from the last episode, that interaction with Lori and Wade, because he's like, you knew? And he looks at Lori and she's like, yeah, I fucking knew. Her, Dan, Rorschach, and Dr. Manhattan, they knew what Adrian did, but nobody else did. And Rorschach died because he literally wouldn't keep his mouth. He said people need to know. People need to know, you did this wrong thing. What you did was wrong. And he knew that like it wasn't going to work if he was like, just fucking kill me. So Manhattan blasts him into the snow, and that's how poor Rory dies.
Yeah, I think
sorry, John.
It's a funny problem to have with the end of the show where it makes sense that the focus is mostly on Angela for the final episode, but because those earlier installments, which are basically deep dives on both Lori and Wade, they're so wonderful and so interesting that you want to wrap up their stories with a bit more of them, and that's actually that's a chief reason why I'm really hoping for a season 2, because I want more of these characters.
I want more with Lori, and I really want more with Angela, Dr. Mangela. the Eggman, whatever the F we want to call her. But I want to see more with Wade more than anything. I need to know where Night Owl is. Come on.
See, there's a lot for a second season, and
I also
here for it. But like, no, go ahead, Sanri.
I was just gonna say, like, I do not believe that Dr. Manhattan could just like die like that. I just no, like the whole Lady True thing. She was such a cool character. She loved really her style. She was awesome. I was like, she is either a clone of Adrian or somehow related to him, but also fun. Barney.
What?
Her kid's running around, probably.
Oh, yeah. I didn't mean to disrupt you, but I just saw the message. And
no, that's great.
That goes on the screen.
Yeah, I was kind of done with what I was saying anyway, but I absolutely would love a second season, but I always screw up saying his last name, Lindelof. Yeah, he's a freaking genius, and I read the letter that he released before he talking about his feelings on Watchmen, basically, and he was like, I've always been such a fan. I absolutely love this, so this is like my tribute to it. And I thought, in regards to that, he did an amazing job. I also have you guys seen Leftovers? He did Leftovers.
I have not, although I hear it's good.
Visaria made me watch it, and shout out to her wherever she is right now. Our third wife, Bernie. But she was like, you got to watch it. It's so good. And I was like, I'm not interested. And then I dove into watching it, and it's beautiful. It's so well written. Everything that he's done lately has been, in my opinion, really good.
Yeah, so, like the big knock people always give Lindelof is for Lost.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, you can't.
Right.
People feel that way they feel about Lost, the way we feel about Aswaf. You know, like, I'm sorry, Game of Thrones. Excuse me. I conflated the two there for a second. But yeah.
Well, everybody knows.
Yep. Don is a season 8 apologist. Just you may not realize that, Sanri, but John.
I reject the term apologist.
I don't understand.
I'm an outright fan, so
that's okay. You can. I literally don't care. Like there were just things, and that's all I'm gonna say about it.
I just missed something. There was a disagreement.
No.
Damn it. We have to disagree with John every time we can.
Let's move away from Game of Thrones and Lost discussions.
And shit. Oh my God, I missed that.
We're focusing. Focus, people.
Focusing, Bernie.
Yeah, actually, Mom brings up a really great thing that I wanted to make sure we did cover.
Let me say something.
Yeah, if not for the fact that I had read something about the fact that people were so shocked that it was actually a real event and not fictional. If I had gone into the series blank, I probably would have thought it was a fictional event, and that's appalling to me.
I hadn't heard of it. I'd never.
This is a huge story. And I wish that we had a person of color on our panel today.
I do too.
I mean,
I
wish that there was.
I reached out to a couple of people, and nobody got back to me. I did try.
Well, that's good, because I kind of was like a little guilty about it. I'm like, somebody, I would like to see that point of view.
I really would too. And there are other people of color who have done their own reviews. Many of them are actually quite good. I encourage you to go seek out that unique point of view in another video. I unfortunately was unable to get a.
He tried. People.
I tried.
He tried.
But I got people who knew the story well and cared about it. So
that was.
I had never known. I never knew that there was.
I didn't either.
Greenfield or a Black Wall Street. I did not know.
That opening is just brilliant because it's right there on your face where it's saying this is what this show is about.
I will say this though: when the sheriff pulls off the hood and you see who it is, I'm like, that's Bass Reeves.
I did see. I had no idea about. I mean, obviously,
but I recognize
shows how sheltered I am.
But Bass Reeves is a pretty famous Western Marshal, the Black Marshal of Oklahoma, real guy. But like that mustache, I'm just like, there's no mistaking. That's Bass Reeves, man.
Doesn't Wade have the same mustache?
I
think he does. It's very similar.
No, he's got more like the hand, because Bass Reeves has the curly kind, the pointy.
I'm good. I might Google this.
Okay.
With wax in it.
Oh, that okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Why did I question the beard and mustache expert?
Which,
I'm
and
just saying.
by the way, that's that whole section in the theater with when he's watching the film, when you rewatch the show, I mean, that scene is just mythic. It feels so powerful because you're watching the origin of this.
Yes.
It's because you can't catch it all in the first time. There's just no way, because I was so confused. That first episode, I was like, why are we watching something from the 20s? And then I'm like, why isn't there like what? And then there's an explosion and you're just thrown right into it. So like we were having a discussion with Erin M in the Joe Magician Patreon Slack the other day, and she was talking about, she kept telling me like, Sanri, just get through the first 2 episodes. I was like, I don't know. But that's what I would encourage anybody who hasn't been through it, which none of you should be in this stream right now because we're ruining everything.
Yeah, spoilers. Yeah, definitely Lindelhof said that after the events of Charlottesville, where people in the racists no longer wear masks. So he felt like this was a great fit to do something political. And I believe his writer's room was pretty diverse, and it seems like he really played a lot into them and what they had to say, and he listened to what they had to say. And it just came out really great. And I hate to talk too long, but Lost, I watched Lost. I loved Lost. One of my favorite shows ever. One of the best experiences ever. Just theorizing. It was a time, man. I was just like, whoosh. So then Game of Thrones came out, and I didn't like the way either one of those ended. So Lindelhof, I think, learned from his mistakes. He made this show, didn't think, no, the audience is too dumb to follow along with this. And he was fucking right. We're not too dumb to follow along. You don't need to fucking candy coat the fucking ending. We have brains. And this, even though it was sci-fi and a little crazy, it made sense. You're just like, how does it make sense? I don't know. But the storytelling was fucking perfect.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Like, so you were saying, John, a moment ago that you feel like the one where Lori is telling her joke is your favorite episode.
But let me
go ahead.
Say I want to make the difference between favorite episode and what I think is probably the best episode, because I don't think I can really dispute the fact that this extraordinary being is like the centerpiece of the season, in my opinion. Because I mean, it's such a powerhouse.
Which one is that exactly? What happens in that episode?
That's the one that's centered on Will, when his origin story.
Okay. Right. It's Angela's trip.
The nostalgia. Trip.
I was live texting a friend, my project manager, who's been yelling at me since the show started to watch it, and when I started the episode, I live texted her, "Holy shit, it's time for Grandpa Acid Trip," and it was amazing. And previously, a character, I can't remember who it was, had mentioned. No, it was when Wade went on the date with that 7th Cavalry girl. She said the movie, it was shot in this way where it was black and white, so things in color really popped, and then immediately transitioned into that episode. Did you catch that, John?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, also in the fact that it's in this universe, that's Spielberg's Schindler's List.
Yes. Like you have to assume Schindler's List doesn't exist as a movie, because they have this. Because
and she talks about the little girl in the red.
The little girl in red, and it's got all in
Yeah.
black and white. And,
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I didn't even make that connection. That's
Me
amazing.
neither. I'm like crazy right now.
Yeah, the two guys that love film. High five, buddy.
Oh, God dang.
Okay, cool.
The mirror reflection
Right? It got me.
throwing me off.
It got me. At
No,
first
you guys
too.
did it perfectly. It was like a Saiyan fusion. I'm
did
very
it perfect. I can't believe it. No one you got to look at the elbow when you high five someone to
That I learned
Look at
that,
me and
Bernie, and
Bernie
it
tried.
absolutely works.
No, wrong way, Sam. I mean Sanri. No.
Who's saying wrong way?
Yeah, it's not as easy as it looks, is it?
No,
But back
called her
to
Sam.
back to Lori's episode, and the reason I love that one is just sort of, from an editorial standpoint, because editor here, so
Right.
I just love the way it's structured around Lori in the booth, telling her jokes and the music. Talking again about the music, I love the cue from that episode that plays every time it cuts back to her, and then it plays again at the end when the car comes crashing down from the sky.
That was amazing.
And she's just maniacally laughing at it because
Right.
that's her
The
joke
absurdity.
basically coming right
Right.
back at her. And it's when I was watching that episode without knowing everything to come, I thought, oh my God, did
Dr. Manhattan.
I'm forgetting that the car had been picked up from the previous episode, because in those early episodes you're just struggling to try and keep things straight. So I didn't remember, but yeah, I thought Dr. Manhattan actually sent it down as a response to her.
I did too. I totally that was I had a hard time. I did not see the Dr. Manhattan reveal coming at all on the rewatch. I was like, how the hell did I miss that? Like, I really the only thing that I thought about, because I was like, there's no way he's living in Tulsa. And then Lori Blake has a line that's like, real amnesia is almost like never a real thing that happens. I'm like, whoever that is, that's Dr. Manhattan. And then I had forgotten who Cal even was at that point. But I thought Adrian Veidt was Dr. Manhattan, who'd either snapped or gone insane for a long time, until I saw the purple mask, which I think is right before he starts sending them off into his proto spacesuits. I saw the purple mask on the bust. I was like, oh shit, that's Ozzy. That's who that is. Because I
knew episode 1. I knew it. I was just
there was a whole lot of talk prior to the release of the show where, and a lot of people were like,
I didn't watch it, but
so Jeremy Irons is playing Ozymandias. They're just not saying he's playing Ozymandias.
I intentionally avoided it, is what I'm saying. I had no idea that people had figured it out.
Another reason to listen to the podcast is the interviewer actually does, he talks to Lindelof for the full hour, and then at a certain point they start playing one of the pieces of classical music, and he says, now let's do a segment I like to call "What the hell is going on with Adrian Veidt?"
Yeah. I loved I'm not when I figured it out, I was like, oh, it's perfect. I was just like, that makes perfect sense, because Ozymandias.
The whole thing is a riot when you go back and watch it again, because when you realize that he's probably scripted so much of these exchanges, and when he gets the letter from the game warden, he's obviously the one who's written that, because you don't think the game warden actually wrote that letter. And so he's just sort of having fun with himself delivering this rebuttal. The whole thing is absurd.
What the hell is going on with Adrian Veidt? Because the one episode opens or ends, or there's a very jarring scene where he's just pulling the fetus fishing.
Yeah. And he's tricking. Nope, not that one.
I was like, the fuck?
So good.
The last thing that Dr. Manhattan says in the comic, and I think he says it in the movie as well, is I've always really liked life. I guess I'll go create some of my own, and he fucks off to Mars. And so I figured out pretty quickly, I'm like, this Mars thing has something to do with Dr. Manhattan. So the Europa reveal and the life reveal, it all kind of came connecting. So in a weird way, I was kind of strangely right, but it was definitely not snapped to Dr. Manhattan. It was Adrian Veidt that I had wrong. But man, the Jeremy Irons is great.
I had about 10 different guesses along the way about what was actually going on, with him, because it's just, by the end, the whole thing is so,
nebulous,
absurd. And, you're like, oh my God, he's actually, this is, when he's in the beginning, when he's talked to, God, what are the names he gives? It's Crookshanks.
Mr. Phillips and Crookshanks.
Yeah, Phillips and Crookshanks, when he says, I'm writing a play, he's not talking about the small little play he puts together. He's talking about this big gigantic,
right.
But
That's the thing.
thing that he's going to put together to entertain himself while he waits to be rescued.
Ozymandias is like literally, I mean, it's a literary reference. I am Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on ye mighty in despair.
Look on my works, ye mighty in despair.
Yeah, okay.
It's important.
You were fucking
You're right.
corrected.
You're right. But still, but you get the reference is that and nothing else remains is the rest of that quote, and it's like, it's the pedestal of a statue with 2 feet, but the pedestal says, I am Ozymandias, look on my works, ye mighty in despair. Because that evokes the idea of always planning this something huge, something that's beyond your scope to perceive. Although ultimately he ends up forgotten, his contributions to society. Nobody can even know about it.
Yeah, and he's fucking pissed, and that's why they had to put him on Europa and keep him busy and trap him there, because all he fucking wanted was glory. And he even, when he puts on his little costume from back in the day and is all, look at me, I'm Ozymandias.
His lame ass old costume.
Yeah, his lame he's been there for like at least 7 years. Oh, and then the whole.
What's great is
3, and I was like, that's not that long.
No, what's great is he's not even there that long before he decides, okay, this is not for me. I gotta start plotting how to get out of here.
So, what? Okay, I gotta talk about the finale. I screamed out loud when he stood and put his elbows up, and they sprayed the gold on him.
Yes, I was
I am so annoyed because I had that spoiled because somebody theorized that is somebody online. I don't remember who it was on Twitter. Somebody mentioned that, and then once that's in your head, you go back and you watch the scene with Lori, Angela, and True, and you're like, okay. Yeah.
Why is he so old? I knew that was him as soon as I saw it, because the timing lined up. I was starting to do the math. I was like, oh fuck, I think that's really Adrian Veidt.
I had no idea. Why is he so old?
Well, it's so funny the way True phrases it in that scene, because Lori is like, holy shit, is that Adrian Veidt? And she goes, yes. Yes, it is.
Yep. She says, yeah, that is Adrian Veidt. And I loved her being his daughter. Holy shit.
Yeah, that was cool. And the mother,
you guys,
fuck you, Adrian Veidt.
Fuck you, Ozymandias.
Ozymandias? Did she say Ozymandias? Oh, Jesus. No, I love that. And the other scream out loud moment I had was when Angela figured out that she had started all this shit going on, and it shouldn't have made sense, but I was following right along, and I was like, oh my god, she just fucking told him back in the day that
then Cal says, I'm confused, and she's like, you're confused.
The storytelling, the writing is just phenomenal right there, for us to understand it and to make it seem like you knew right then, oh, she just fucked up. Like Catelyn Stark. Oh, that was a mistake.
A mistake was made.
Mm-hmm.
Oof.
And can I say that I think one of the, as despicable as we ultimately find out that he is, one of the master strokes of writing is oh wait, I've just blanked out on her name.
Judd.
I
knew who you were talking about.
Judd Crawford, because it's funny because Lindelof said he cast wow, what is wrong with me? You all know his name, I'm sure, because anybody who's
I can't think of that actor's name either.
Matthew Good. Oh, no. I love him.
Who's the character? I suck with names of actors, so who's the character?
Judd Crawford.
Judd Crawford.
Oh,
Don Johnson.
There you go. Yeah.
Because he was cast because just Damon Lindelof said he's known for sort of playing the good guy, but for me, over the past several years, he's kind of played sort of, disreputable type. So actually, when I started off the show, I wondered if he might not be, a bad guy. But
You had an intuition.
But he won me over throughout the first episode, and I thought, this is such a sweet guy. He's a genuinely good person, and I held on to a couple little suspicions until he winds up dead at the end of the episode.
Yep, and then you're like, nope.
Yeah, and
so pissed. I love him.
And then when you find out, it's like, oh shit. But
like,
because he's a fucking racist fucking asshole.
Right, but like, really, I mean, you're like, why does it have to be that way? Because you fall in love with him.
Well, it plays off of your sort of emotions of, you thought this white dude in the white hat was the good guy, but no, he's not.
I see what you're saying.
Actually, I think he's probably one of the worst examples of sort of, that insidious racism, because he's not the cartoonish, he was
telling Angela he loved her.
Yeah.
I mean, like, how
Black Oklahoma,
he's the guy who thinks that he's actually not that bad, that he's trying to mediate sort of between, he's part of, Cyclops, but he thinks he's actually, doing some good in his own way.
Right.
And that, to my mind, is worse.
Oh, yeah.
I agree.
That's called delusion, my friend.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, and like, racism is such an insidious problem in our country, and it can make it genuinely, people like him would make it genuinely difficult sometimes for a person of color to trust any white person when they have a run-in with someone like that, because he smiled at my face and, came to my home for dinner, but, in the back of his closet, there's a Klan robe.
And even rewatching it, knowing what I knew, he comes off as such a sweet guy. And it's very conflicting, watching those scenes with him, because you're like, I want to like him so much, but,
It's like the Americans, that show the Americans are playing, he's a spy, basically, just trying to. And he knew that he had to blow up that plane before it left, or because those people couldn't get away to tell any stories, so.
And any sort of delusions I have when I watched the first episode about, what are his intentions? Is he the worst of the worst? But then when you watch the second episode, the flashback scene where he's sitting by Angela's hospital bed, you see the moment where he's manipulating her into trusting him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's where you're like, oh shit, he really
there it is. Yep.
Yeah.
You're like, that is a pig, and you're just grossed out. And then like when Laurie comes to confront his wife, I can't remember her name, Judd's wife, and she has this freaking trap door.
Who has an trap door?
Judy Crawford, I think her name was Judy, maybe.
She's and she plays Holden's mother in The Expanse.
Yeah,
she's a great actress.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Go ahead.
We've had a request for art check-in. Can we see some art?
Let me make it big.
Okay. Here we go. Oh man.
We've got a looking glass.
Yeah, we do. That's awesome.
Mirror guy.
Mirror guy. I believe it was Romaine, sir. He just, every line he had was so well executed.
My favorite is, I did not personally witness any violence against the suspect.
Oh
Guys, time out. We've been going for about an hour. I got to do my mid-roll.
Okay.
So, at the midpoint, you guys know I always say, hey, remember to like the video, subscribe. If I don't remember to do it now, I never remember to do it. So please subscribe. Please go follow me on Twitter. Follow them on Twitter. All those links are down in the description. Become a patron if you want. Nobody has to. I got a couple.
No, you have to. I am telling you have to.
Yeah, okay. John says you have to, so I can't go against John. But got a couple patrons in the chat. Got one on the panel here, but I always got to shout out my man, Ridiculous Ed Tollett. You know who you are, buddy.
He's a good man.
He is a good man.
I love
What
him.
a man, what a man, what a man, what a
mighty good man.
Yes, he is.
I hope he sees this.
I think he's in the chat, or he was earlier anyway. But also next week we'll be back on Sunday. We didn't do Sunday this week because I could get Sanri today.
Mm-hmm.
You're traveling for the holidays tomorrow, so
That's correct.
But yeah.
Someday Sanri and I are going to make a channel. We're threatening.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Oh, it's been in development for quite some time.
It'll have to be Monday. We just have to figure it out. It'll be Monday nights. You know what else is going on?
I'm here for it. You do it. I'll watch. You know I will. But
that's right.
Yeah, but next week we'll be back on Sunday, regular bat time, regular bat channel, and we'll be covering.
DC, holla!
And we will be back on the Expanse episodes 4 through 6, and that show is getting hot, y'all. The first 3 episodes were great. The next 3 are even better. So, great. Back to Watchmen. Take it away.
I forgot what I was going to say because we were saying something about our favorite quotes. You said your favorite quote. My favorite quote was when Angela says, what does she say? Get the fuck off the pool and tell me right now. Standing on the pool. It's like, will you get the fuck off the pool and tell me what's going on? Like, I was just like, oh my God, that was fucking killer. He's out there walking on water.
when she's in the bedroom with the kids and they're looking at him standing on the pool, and then the kids disappear, and she goes, "Mother."
Get the fuck up off the pool.
I am so glad that instead of doing the ridiculous, even though I loved the style of Manhattan in the Snyder film, I was like, oh, please let it be Cal painted blue. Just let it be Cal painted blue. And then boom, blue Cal. And I was like, oh.
He even painted his dick blue. He painted his dick blue.
I think my favorite Lori line, though, was nice panties.
Yep.
I love that line.
Mm-hmm.
No, who wore them? Dr. Manhattan wore them back?
Yeah.
Manhattan wore them. That was his. They made him cover up his dick. They were like, y'all.
He looked better. He looked better. The senator did.
That was when the senator had it on. And that's the point where you're like, and it was so relevant to modern times of modern racism being led by this absurd, joke of a person who obviously does not have this as well thought out as he should.
It imitates real life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that their entire scheme is, undone by Lady True, who
in 14 seconds. She was amazing.
I thought that I looked her up. Like I always IMDb things when I'm watching things constantly, and I feel like the actress is 40 something years old. She looks amazing, and she also plays a younger self, like her teen self, or maybe in her 20s when she goes up to Antarctica or wherever the hell. And
can we talk about how? Let's talk about how hilarious Jeremy Irons is, not just in that scene, but overall, because you don't think about Adrian Veidt being funny, but the way Jeremy Irons plays it, because he's so vain.
Because he can get it. Jeremy Irons can get it.
When she comes to see him, and he's all like, "I don't talk to fans," and and then she flatters him, and he's like, "Would you like to come in?"
Yep. And he says something. What does he say? Like when he gets ready to drop the squids, he says something like, "It takes one to know one," talking about an egotistical maniac when he's taking
narcissism.
He says it like in Latin first, and then he just turns and says, "Takes one to know one."
Yeah. Of course he says it in Latin. He's fucking Ozymandias.
He's fantastic. You can't set him out to pasture yet. He's still got it. You know, he definitely. I had forgotten about him a little bit. You know, and he just came out and he
This
killed
is
it.
Bernie realizing how much she loves Jeremy Irons. The
I never knew it. I never knew it before.
And then, you know,
Henry, thank you.
So used to delivering these big scripted
Sanri.
monologues, and he starts giving another one, and then Wade just knocks him on the back.
Oh yeah, so good.
That talks too much.
Ah, nice.
Oh,
I waited for
we
it to
just
happen.
fucking
I
kicked
waited
your
for it to-
asses. Oh shit.
Yeah. I was sitting here watching. Are they going to get it? Are they going to get? Oh, they got it.
John, we were also totally listening to you and not just acknowledging
Yes.
you, sir.
Good
I'm
points,
sorry.
always good points.
We have really good ADD brain.
Yeah. This is what streaming is.
So what else? What happened we talked
It's
about? Have we
true.
talked about the
Okay.
eggs and how the egg motif carries through with Angela?
Yeah.
The first episode, she has the eggs in the music. I caught it more in the music, like at the end of there's like a Beastie Boys song, yeah, with the eggs.
Yep.
And I was like,
Egg on your face.
give me more,
Yeah.
sing me more.
I don't know any more of it.
I don't know
really
any
don't.
more
I
of
listen
it
to that
either. Oh, so
Driving
good.
by. That's all I know. But the last song was "I Am the Eggman." I am the
Eggman.
walrus.
Cuckoo.
I was like, oh, every song, every egg. It was like almost like a literal
Mhm.
egg. Easter eggs were eggs. It was kind of like,
eggs.
oh my god, it's crazy.
Like-
Yeah, it was cool.
Will Reeves makes eggs for himself while Angela leaves him tied up, and yeah,
Mhm.
It's-
And
The first scene she's making in the school, she's using eggs with the blood. She made the smiley face, like the comedian
And-
smiley face.
They you can't make an omelet without cracking a few eggs is something Ozymandias says, and then Dr. Manhattan says it, and then you see obviously the shattered eggs and the one impossibly perfect, which
Right.
you guys all saw the article or the statement that Lindelof said about what he
I
intended
did.
with the end,
Yeah.
which I'm glad he did that because the leftovers.
No, I
was-
didn't see it. Tell me, I didn't see it.
Okay, so basically he said, like, Bernie, I'm going to act like him talking to you right now. Bernie, do you believe that Angela, with all of her force and might, could throw down a carton of eggs and have one, while all the others are shattered into oblivion and just yolk and cracked, one be perfect and fine?
So she's definitely Dr. Manhattan now. That's what I
She
came to
has-
the conclusion.
yeah.
She ate his brains.
Well, the
gained his
alternative,
power.
he even Lindelof said the alternative is that she got salmonella poisoning and fell into a pool.
Right.
It's
No, I
like,
didn't hear him
do
say
we
that.
really think that's how it ends?
Right.
Well, also in their first date, when a god walks into a bar,
Best episode in my opinion.
Oh.
My favorite episode.
if you pay attention to, I noticed somebody told me this. I can't remember who. I think it was my friend at work I watched it with. But if you listen to their conversation, he starts off with like a John Osterman voice, and by the end, he's talking in Cal's voice. And also, she takes an egg and she says, "You see this egg right here? So you're saying you could put all this power into this egg, and then I could eat it, and I could become you." And he's like, "Yeah, in theory." And none of us really, completely understand Dr. Manhattan powers.
Yeah,
I think that's the point.
I literally thought that was the setup because we already knew at that point that the 7th Cavalry intended on killing him and stealing his power.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was like them setting up that aspect of it. Didn't actually think they were going to feed an egg to Angela and it was going to make her walk on the swimming pool.
But then when you saw it, you're like, oh, yeah, boom.
And really, when you rewatch the series, there's so much building up to, her transformation into, Dr. Manhattan or, the female version of. But
Hey, ladies can be doctors.
yes,
I
didn't
there's-
mean to infer that as
I
her
know
becoming a man.
I'm
It's, I don't know. Forget it.
Dr. Womanhattan.
No. Forget
Sister
it.
Night
I just hate it.
2, Manhattan Boogaloo. Nailed it.
we got there.
But there's so much sort of building up to that with even, the whole thing with the way she experiences Will's memories of the fact that, she literally has a Manhattan
Yes, I didn't
experience.
think of that. I didn't
And
think of that.
so really, when you watch the show back, there's no way you can really consider that she doesn't become Dr. Manhattan. You know, it's just what it all leads to. The whole thing is, the story, you can make an argument that it's both her and Will's origin story, but for the most part, the series as a whole is her origin story.
Right.
It's
That's a
Will's.
really good way to talk about it.
It's also Will's origin story, and I also have a theory.
Hooded Justice.
No, about. Okay, what is their adopted son's name? Is it Topher?
Topher, yeah. He's going to be like Night Owl 3.
Yeah, I'm saying.
Yeah.
You watch what he's gone through. That's a superhero.
That's
origin
Night Owl
story,
3.
man.
Also, want to point out, it sets up something for Lady True's mother/daughter, because there's a shot of her in the police car with Red Scare and Pirate Jenny that mirrors Angela with the two cops in Vietnam.
Yeah.
That was, oh God. When Angela's grandma showed up to take her out of the orphanage, I mean, it just, the way they did all those backstories was just amazing. Like, I wish we would have gotten to see Red Scare's backstory.
Me too.
No, I bet it would have been
Pirate
really
Jenny.
dumb. Pirate Jenny was cool, yeah. But
they were just kind of lame. I felt like they kind of just threw them in there, like
they were just the extras.
making fun of, like in the the way of Watchmen, making fun of superheroes, kind of,
Yeah.
Yep.
I loved them because
weren't the parents Clarks?
They're side
The parents
characters.
Clarks.
They're side characters, but I don't know. I found them entertaining. I especially like Red Scare's. I'm not a Nazi. I'm a communist.
I'm a communist.
That made me laugh. But the parents, remember when Lady True went to the house and knocked on the door, and the parents?
They were
Was she
Clarks.
Lois Clark?
They were Clarks.
Like Clark.
They were the Clark family, and also they're in the New Frontiersmen, the comic book shop where the two guys were having an exchange. That's a callback to the comic Watchmen with the newsstand where they read the Black Freighter, which is the in-universe pirate thing. Yes, you love it. I
love them.
So
I did not even know that was a callback, but I love those. Hang on. I love those two guys, and I love every scene they're in. There's two scenes with them in it, and the first scene they're in, the one guy says to the other, "What are you gonna do? Clone your father or mother?" And then BN walks off the bus.
Yep.
Like it's the first that you're like, ouch, fuck. We did it right there.
I'm pretty sure in the original comic that they are both named Barney.
No.
Yeah, what? I'm pretty sure. I can't remember, but I'll have to look it up. But they have like the same name.
You mentioned that the farm couple is named Clark, right? Is that what you said? What's the significance of that though? Because I missed
Clark Kent.
Clark Kent, like
and in Will's flashback episode,
he's reading Action Comic 1,
where the guy's on the street and he comes over to talk to him, and it's Superman's origin story, and of course that loops back to the way his story begins of being sent away, just like
but is
just
that,
like Kal-El
parallels there? There's parallels there for sure.
Is that Adrian Veidt coming back to Earth?
Yes.
Yes.
It's not Superman. That was Adrian Veidt landing right there. That was
right then. Absolutely. She said that's why she had the timer. She knew he was coming. That's where he was going to land. She farmed a baby. No, that was fucking. And I didn't realize what it was. I thought, what is it? Meteors. Some kind of special. But that played out very, very.
That's one of the ones you definitely have to really you don't instantly catch it. I think that one took me a minute.
Well, how could but we really you'd have it would be a fluke if you guessed what that was, really.
Yeah, it really would. It would be already.
But again, unfortunately, I was in the position of having
John, what the fuck are you?
Stay off the internet, boy.
No, once you know
who are you talking to?
No, once you know
EP?
Stop it. Once you know that Veidt is the statue going back to watch the episode from the beginning, it's then pretty easy to infer that he's
Right.
probably,
Yeah.
crash landing there.
But
So
the
if you're
first time you wouldn't know.
No, I didn't know the first viewing.
No.
But going back to watch it.
Clark Griswold is a
Clark
superhero.
He's a superhero.
Yeah,
he
man.
bagged he bagged Christy Brinkley, right? He was going to anyway. He
was
could have.
gonna.
He could. Oh, Bernie.
Oh God. So anyway, what were we talking about? Was something about when
Watchmen. There was one point I wanted to make sure that I brought up, and that was about how the 7th Cavalry sort of co-opted the Rorschach mask as their symbol. Now,
I'm sorry.
Okay,
Sorry,
so-
Sanri.
So allow me to pontificate, if I will, for a moment. Okay, there was a certain symbol associated with a certain group of people from Central Europe in the mid 1940s, right?
Don't do that. Assholes do that.
Yeah, a certain,
means
a certain thing that, like, if you go to Germany, it's illegal to even display it.
Oh.
Shut up.
But that particular symbol was co-opted by the Nazi Party from, like, it appears in Native American art and Indian art, and it's a very actually common symbol used throughout the world, but it was co-opted and had its meaning changed through that because of how it was used to symbolize the group. And the Rorschach mask is in a lot of ways the same thing, and it actually makes a lot of sense to me for the 7th Cavalry to use that mask because their ideology is displayed in that mask, a separation between black and white, a solid separation, no mixing of the two.
Here's the crazy thing for me. I don't know if anyone watched the Army-Navy football game where those guys were doing the OK sign and upside down. Well, that, to me, like growing up in New York, there's Bloods in my city. This was a blood sign. Like blood sign, I don't even want to do gang sign.
Right.
But now the OK sign. And that's somewhat new. And I think it's something that people really need to know. And they did the OK sign on, their foreheads for the racist. Like it's crazy how, it's not cool. It was not cool for them to do that.
If we're talking about, that was just reminding me because, that starts all the way back in when Will Reeves is a cop in New York. He starts seeing them display that symbol. And did you guys, I don't know if maybe you picked, I don't think anybody would pick up on this on their own, but there was an article going around about how Fred from that episode, the bakery shop owner who's the leader, of the Cyclops, is actually in sort of, you could say that he either is supposed to be or a homage to another Fred from back in those days who may or may not have been the father of our commander-in-chief.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't know if you guys caught that, but in the show that is obviously very, blatantly topical.
So, I guess I see it now. I try not to think about those people.
But
you also.
But I mean, for a show that was already
scary.
that was already very blatantly political. I was, when I read that, I was like, wow, they really went for it.
Well, Lindelof is very progressive, liberal.
Yeah.
So of course, who wants to watch? No one wants to watch anything the fucking assholes made. So anyway, whatever.
Right.
People with terrible views. Look at Clint Eastwood's last movie. No one fucking went to go see that fucking shit because he's a shitbird.
Bernie, what are you drinking?
Can you tell? I was just like,
I can tell. I love you though.
Oh, sorry. I had Sailor Jerry and eggnog. Now I'm done.
Now I'm done.
But and I will say this.
Lo siento.
The way that this is not my observation, and I wish I could remember whose it was. I've watched other people talk about this show or listen to their thoughts, as I was collecting my own thoughts for our stream here. Somebody mentioned that the way that they show the 7th Cavalry, like using film as a weapon against people of color, is really can be read as an analogy of the way that people of color have been were portrayed in film historically, to sort of, if you're a black actor, the only parts for you are these parts where you're a caricature of what white people think a black person is,
You're not top billed, you're playing, or you're, it's a slave movie.
Right.
Like, that needs to change. I mean, and I think it is slowly but surely.
Well, but they were also using that tactic in the 40s, and or maybe it was the 50s, whenever Will Reeves was a police officer in New York. And historically, until fairly recently, most black characters were criminals, the bad guy, or again,
drug dealer.
Right. Or at best, they were a Jim Crow caricature, Yeah.
No, I totally agree. I mean, that's a tough situation for me to talk about. Because, it's just, I don't really, truly, totally understand what that would be like, to not see myself represented,
right.
To have to pick and choose what I watch because that person doesn't look like me. So I really, don't have an answer for it. I hope that it's changing. I think that it's changing. And I hope that it changes more.
Well, arguably, this show is part of the process of that changing. The lead of this show is a middle-aged woman of color. Hollywood doesn't typically treat middle-aged women very well or women of color very well.
It sucks being a middle-aged woman. All we do is we can complain to the manager.
Right. Okay, Karen.
I come back on, I can complain to the manager.
Yeah. Karen. Enter Karen on.
Oh, Karen. Karen one down.
But it's funny that you're talking about sort of stereotypes and talking about that time in which Will Reeves is a cop, because that's a big part of his disillusionment with the Minutemen, because the fact that they bring him on and then they shut him down immediately when he gets ready to talk about Cyclops at their press conference, and then they go right into the sort of advertisement with Dollar Bill holding this caricature of a black criminal, and it's just like
it's very
it's hard because
it's horrible.
The way that they change that completely changes the way that I think about the Minutemen and stuff, because Dollar Bill gets most of the Minutemen die tragically or horribly, almost all of them. Hollis Mason gets beaten to death in his home. That's Night Owl 1. Dollar Bill his cape gets caught in a bank vault when he's trying to save it, and he gets shot to death. So you never really hear about Hooded Justice. So he was the one to pick. No capes. Yeah, The Incredibles. But I just really love this change, and I'm at the point where I'm about to get more into a story on my rewatch right now. I just finished the Laurie Blake episode, but man, making the first in this universe, in the Watchmen universe, the first superhero ever, Hooded Justice, a black man, I think was awesome. And I am so glad that they did that.
And they didn't hide from the fact that he had to put on whiteface.
And that is
despite
what he did to his kid
under the mask,
Yeah.
Crazy.
And the whole thing about people in masks with trauma, it's just super relatable to even people who don't have to wear masks. We all put on a mask to go outside and deal with our daily lives. That's the super relatable aspect to me, at least. That makes sense.
It does a lot. I want to check in with your art again, if that's all right.
Yeah, I'm getting kind of to the end, I think. I gotta figure out a line I want to put on here.
I think that Lindelof is really trying to nail home the effects of inherited trauma.
Yes.
And no matter if you're a person of color and, you know, any marginalized person, a Jewish person, that your ancestors' trauma still relates to you and you still feel it. And that's huge. And I think it had so many different freaking facets, this show. And
It
that
really
was one
did.
of them. There was some humor, there was action, there was a little bit of everything, and there was a little bit of truth, and there was a little bit of learning for everybody. Like, everybody should learn. Like, it's just not that fucking easy to forget, you know, what happened, you know.
Well, it is, and then it isn't, because I think actually maybe one of the best lines of this whole show is delivered by Will Reeves right there near the end, where he says,
God, yeah.
you know, wounds need air if they're going to heal. And I'm like, oh, that is so brilliant on so many levels. It works for the mask, it works for the personal traumas, but it also works for the sort of social trauma, which circles back to the very beginning of episode 1 about, you know, what happened in Greenwood.
And I think that scene is the climax of the series. I mean, even though it's not, you know, you have the whole
Dramatic.
You have the climax with, you know, Dr. Manhattan and Lady True and, you know, all that stuff, but definitely the emotional and thematic climax of the series is right there in the theater with Angela and Will.
Yeah. Hard agree.
Yeah, but you know, I just love the idea that, like, if we want to move past the difficulties that are being shown in this story, we have to be willing to talk about them. You know, we have to be willing to talk about the fact that in 1921, a very successful, I've heard that it was the richest black neighborhood in America, which basically
Eradicated.
Yeah, and including like literally throwing dynamite out of airplanes. That really happened, and the National Guard kind of stood by and watched it happen. It's, you know, you have to acknowledge that so that we can. Well, that's just the first step in healing. I just love the idea. I thought that one line at the end was.
Yeah, it's
you beautifully.
You can't heal under a mask. Wounds need air.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Wounds need air. Yeah, it's true. It's like, man, it's just such a big topic, and like I feel so unqualified, and like I shouldn't like even begin to say that I can understand some things that some people have gone through. But I mean, just with my own traumas, like you need air.
You do.
John,
time and space.
You got to air it out.
John, how much? I don't want to ask you a question. I don't know how much you know about Tulsa 21. I know.
I didn't know anything, and
Okay.
I think that everybody involved in this show should be very proud, because I think they've done something remarkable. Because, as you know, this is, you know, as we've said, that there's parts of the show that are, you know, really weird and absurd. But one thing it definitely does is educate a lot of people and open a lot of eyes.
Well, what I heard of it was these African-American men went out to World War I, fought in World War I, came back with some money, opened up, you know, a little utopia for themselves. In they called it Black Wall Street, because they were prospering. Like, it was an amazing place to live. But how did they get away with just killing all those people? Like, I don't understand.
Okay,
it's a true fucking story. I mean, I don't know why.
So it was alleged that a young black man raped a young white woman, and then a bunch of people, several white people, showed up at the jail to lynch that young man, but a crowd had gathered to keep that from happening. Violence broke out between those two groups, and the next day was. Now, I'm not a historian. This is going off what I read off of Wikipedia a couple weeks ago, so my details might be off a little bit. But yes, that is my understanding.
So they weren't using aircraft. It was more ground, like.
No, there were airplanes.
Damn. I mean, come on. This is crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. It's like I didn't know it was real. I watched episode 1 and didn't know that was real.
How do we not, as a society, how do we not know this?
I'm embarrassed that I didn't know about it.
Yeah, same. Hard same.
I'm gonna send something to you guys after we finish up, because I came across this a couple of weeks ago. There was basically a comic that was done by HBO in conjunction with The Atlantic, it's basically a graphic novel version of the Tulsa massacre, how it started, and it's like an appendix.
Can we put it in the link
to the show?
Put it in the link.
If I will
comment.
Drop that.
Yeah.
For us.
I will put a link
for us.
somewhere.
Let me Stephen, I'll send you the link.
Yeah, I'll just probably, once we're done streaming, I'll just pin a comment to the top of the comment section down below.
Good idea.
Okay. Well, I just sent it to our group.
Okay. Cool.
Our group. He says it like we suck, Sanri. Did you hear him?
Yep.
John.
What?
We are awesome. Ready?
Good. Okay.
High five.
You got it that time. Way better. Come on, John.
She had it. I didn't.
What? Oh, I got it.
Yeah,
John loves us. John is like the professional of the group, and he just tolerates us.
I understand the dynamic.
Yeah, me too. I'm all right with it.
John is a great guy.
Mm-hmm.
He helps keep us all on the straight and narrow a little bit.
I pretend to be. I pretend to be that way.
Somebody's got to keep her ruckus in line.
All right, guys, we've got like maybe 20 minutes left in the stream. So this is a chance for anybody in the chat to bring up anything we didn't talk about that you want to talk about. And for the guests here, anything we missed, bring it up now.
I would like to say, before anyone asks a question, that Lost had an episode called Through the Looking Glass. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
I heard that Lindelof is a big Alice in Wonderland fan.
Wow, figures. Alice in Wonderland's awesome. I'm not saying anything bad about Alice in Wonderland, but yeah, no, that was a little Easter egg. And I just I can't say enough. Like, don't not watch this because you hated the way Lost ended. Yeah. Lindelof has grown.
He learned.
The Leftovers, he got better, and this is even better than The Leftovers.
I would say that the way in which he learned from past mistakes is he did. No, I'm not going to agree with you on Lost, but I'm saying he learned his lesson by telling his story in one season and then getting out before the honeymoon was over.
Well, here's the deal. Here's my deal with Lost is I'm an atheist. So as soon as man of faith, man of science, I'm a woman of science. So as soon as that came, I was like, no, this is not the way my show is ending. So then in this show, he made the A-bars are atheists because Cal says to the kids, when someone dies, they don't go to heaven. They're just nowhere, you know? So I was like, he kind of redeemed himself in my eyes. I'm like, thank God he didn't make it because The Leftovers was very God heavy. So I was like, all right, yeah, and I can deal with it. Hey, faith is great. I love reading about it, whatever. But, so I feel like he really nailed this one. It wasn't, some crazy ending that we all were like, what? It's an amazing ending. Maybe one of the best endings of any show ever. I'm saying it right here, now.
If they never made a second season, that would be fine.
I don't think they should.
Well, I here's the thing.
We want it, but we don't need it.
We don't need it, but I want it if the story is there.
Yeah.
That's it. Don't try to force a story, but maybe in a year or two,
longer.
Lightning strikes his brain and he's
longer. 10 years.
You can't decide when the news is going to come.
Here's the thing.
It's not going to be 2 years. You have to even think it up first.
Okay, Bernie.
I do get the desire because I had similar feelings about to kind of switch gears when Blade Runner 2049 came out, which I was an enormous fan of. It started to be talk that Ridley Scott would do
Why do we disagree so much?
I will not tolerate any negativity about Blade Runner 2049. So
The original.
Yes. Anyway, so there started to be talk months after that Ridley Scott might have a story idea for the third one. I was like, no, stop it, because I thought that I thought lightning strikes twice. It's not going to strike a third time. So I'd rather let 2049 sit on its own for at least
But
a substantial amount of time, before rushing in with another story. Even though there's you could argue there's a loose ends at the end of it, but I still
Loose
it
ends.
always comes back to art happens when and where it happens. That muse comes to the artist in its own time. You can't decide. So I find it unlikely.
Yell at us and,
What?
and pressure us.
Yes.
You could thank us if you wanted to.
Right.
It's like,
Okay, inside joke there, folks, but not really a joke now that I think about it. But yeah,
I was
anyway.
joking around. It was a joke. I was shh.
it's fine. We were just teasing.
We're just having
We're
fun.
just spitballing over here.
It's
But I doubt he'll have the idea. But if he gets the perfect story idea tomorrow, why wouldn't I want him to do that?
Sometimes as an artist, you think you have the perfect story idea.
That's also true.
And you need someone to kind of spitball it off of and show it to, and then they kind of pick
what
out
if it is
something.
the perfect
So,
story?
but I think it takes a while. I don't think that genius is just made. There's very few things that are made year after year after year after year. Talk about.
That I'll also agree with. They need to have the right story.
Yeah, sometimes we think as an artist and Sanri, you think, this is. You have to really feel it. You know what I mean?
Don't you dare talk bad about Sanri's art.
No, I never would.
That's why I said that to start off with, because you could pressure me into making art. And let me tell you, as an artist who works professionally,
I don't know how you do it,
and then goes home and freelances.
I don't know how you do it.
The more genuine the art is, the more inspired
the better it is. I don't know how you go to work every day and draw and not necessarily be into it. To me, I gotta have that motivation.
Yeah, I draw once a year. I draw one picture every year for Inktober.
Just one.
Just one. This year it was Spider Cowboy.
Spider Cowboy.
Yeah, you guys can look back on my
or not.
You can look back on my Twitter if you care.
You better retweet it. We got to see it now.
We got to see Spider Cowboy.
It's pretty bad.
See it.
It's pretty
I definitely
terrible.
did not see that.
I agree with Bernie, though, on not pressuring him to make a second season until he's ready. But here's my fear.
At least 5 years.
HBO loves money. So, and this show has been, I read something that said from episode 1 to the season finale, it
blew up
a bajillion times over in viewership. So I feel like HBO is going to be like, hey, make money. And if we don't have anyone but Lindelof do it.
No, I'm not watching. If Lindelof doesn't do it, I'm not fucking watching.
I don't want to see it. I'm scared. I've been hurt before.
But here's the thing is he has enough money, hopefully, that will not entice him.
Yeah.
Hopefully he's a real artist and he's going to feel inspired when he feels inspired to do something. Just like George is taking forever. We're talking about Song of Ice and Fire again. But when he feels inspired he has to have, as an artist, you have to have that muse. You have to have that encouragement. You have to have that feeling. And if he doesn't have it, I don't want him to even fucking try, no matter how much they pay him.
Yeah, I don't think he will, though. He's been pretty
Lindelof, I mean.
Yeah, he's been pretty choosy with what he's been doing lately, though, right?
Well, no. I mean, I'm not really paying attention, but the last TV show we did.
Visaria. She knows what he's doing.
Was Leftovers. Leftovers was great. And I like that show. I like the way I have a better feeling from watching it than I did Lost.
Yeah, I really like Leftovers too. I agree with you about the God stuff, but I think the Norma character in that, if you remember her, the mom.
Which mom? Norma?
The white mom. God.
Everyone was white but Michael and wait, what? Who?
She's the one who ends up in the final episode with the dude. She's the main love interest. Norma.
Whatever. I don't know. Let's move on.
Pod.
I don't remember.
I'm ruining the series. Anyway.
Yep.
I can't watch that show anymore. I don't really know who Norma's involved. Oh, Norma was Kate's mother, right? She's a redneck mom.
Mm-mm.
No, all right.
No.
Sorry, let's move on quickly.
John, save us. John,
save
Hey,
us.
you're gonna have to message me later about who Norma is.
It's okay. We can have a conversation about it.
I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of mixed overall. I don't want Lindelof to do it if he doesn't want to.
No.
But, then there's also but then I don't not want the story to continue in some way, because I do want to see what happens, with, like Wade and Lori. And, I want more of, many of the characters' stories. And then there's the danger of, well, if you give somebody else a chance to do it, how's it going to turn out? But Watchmen does not, exclusively belong to Damon Lindelof.
No,
it originates, with Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. So you could, it's perfectly reasonable to have somebody new come in and give their take on Watchmen.
I agree completely. Actually.
But if we are existing in the same universe, I don't want that to happen. I want this story, like, this is Lindelof's Watchmen. So if somebody else comes in,
he's a young guy.
Their version.
Yeah, but he's said that he has said everything he wants to say about Watchmen
for now
in the season of television.
Now, he has. So, but who are we missing? How could this story move on? And someone's going to do another Watchmen sometime in our lifetime, I'm sure. But who can move on? I think they set up Topher. If I'm going to talk about a season 2, eventually sometime, I don't even think they should call it a season 2. It should just be another Watchmen, long, 7 years from now. So I think Topher is totally set up to take on the role from his mother. Maybe he'll be the new Night Owl. Mm-hmm. Also, Dan could get out of jail. Night Owl could get out of jail, and that's another person that they could use. He just needs the catalyst, some kind of story, something going on that gets him going.
He's had a lot of trauma. He just needs a time and something to spark that. Like Hooded Justice's moment of having the shit kicked out of him, having that rope around his neck, which has always been a mystery and never been explained in the comic books, by the way. So that, the way they set up that scene and they did that, and they put the mask on, I was like, yes. Like, that's Topher's got to have a moment like that, a hero moment. Like Rorschach's is when he finds the little girl who'd been kidnapped by basically a pedophile and killed and put into an oven or something, and he just snaps and kills the dogs that ate her bones or something. And then he's like, oh my God. They talk about it, and they're like, he talks about it when he talks about the psychologist in the movie and also in the comic, and he's like, that's the night that Walter Kovacs died and Rorschach was born. So it's like the critical hero turning point, if you will.
And Sanri, can I just say that that's the last chapter or issue in the graphic novel that I've read, Rorschach in the prison or whatever, and the whole thing with the doctor that he's speaking to. That entire issue is chilling.
Isn't it fucking?
It blew me away. Yeah,
that's the best insight into his psychology or his psychological state and his mind and the entire thing. And most of it's told kind of from his perspective, but you really realize how smart he is, but also how fucked up he is.
And I would make the argument that just the response that I had to that is the number one reason why I would say anybody who's only seen the film, please read the graphic novel, because it's so.
Are you talking to me?
It's such a different experience. No, I'm talking to many people.
Everybody.
I will.
I need to reread it, to be honest with you. I don't remember it well enough. I need to reread it.
It's incredible. It's a really. Just if I can make one comment, if I remember correctly, and this is going back a while, so forgive me if I get this wrong, but Dave Gibbons. What?
Go ahead.
Dave Gibbons and Alan Moore talked about the colors and just the visuals, just the colors that were used to print the comic. Traditionally, during that time period, they used red, green, blue. Red, blue and yellow. Like Action Comics were, if you remember early Supermans or you think of that, those were the colors that they chose. So they intentionally chose colors that were not printed a lot in graphic novels. So they have a lot of oranges, they have a lot of cyans, magentas, pinks, purples, greens. That's why I've got like green all over this Looking Glass piece, and I had Lori in like orange and purple and stuff because it was an homage to the original colors.
So they use primary colors only, is what you're saying?
It's variations. I'll have to look it up so I can be more specific. But basically, what I'm talking about is throughout Watchmen, if you read the comic book, there will be parts that will be referenced like mirror images or callbacks to earlier panels and pages. So the color scheme will be inverted, or like when Dr. Manhattan is on Mars and it's all red and he's the only blue element, you go back to earlier chapters and he's the only blue element in there's a whole bunch of blue elements, but then Lori's the red one. So it's like, it's just a really psychologically little like things to trigger your brain. Yeah, subliminal. Thank you. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Little subliminal things like that. And just hours of time went into that. The in-universe Black Freighter, which if you've ever seen a post by Grant on Twitter, Heathen King, he fucking loves Black Freighter.
Shout out to Heathen King.
Shout out to our boy Grant. And yeah, the in-universe Night Owl paper, the Hollis Manson book, like you mentioned, John, there's a bunch of stuff like that is just included at the chapter breaks. It's only about 100 and something pages. You can get through it in a week or two, not that hard of a commitment. And
if anybody really wants a good edition, I highly recommend. This is the DC Modern Classics hardcover edition. I got this because the pages are very, well printed, much better than your standard hardcover edition. It's a little more expensive, but I recommend it.
Mine's pretty sad. It's about 15 years old.
For the record, y'all, I did find that tweet and posted the link just now. That's why I've been quiet for a good 10 minutes because I'm scrolling through my Twitter trying to find the tweet from my stupid spider thing I drew for Inktober.
Well, thank you, Stephen.
It's the last thing I posted there, the Twitter. Anyway, it's terrible. Enjoy. I hope you guys like it. Well, we got to be coming to the end of this. I don't know what else I can say, although I feel like we could probably marinate on this for a month or two and then come back and still have a million new things to say.
Yeah, because we didn't go very in depth into the nostalgia trip episode. We talked a little bit about it, but I'd love to talk more about that because I think that is probably one of the most affecting hours of television I've ever watched.
John,
did you catch? Sorry, go ahead, Bernie.
Was that shot on film, you think?
I don't know. I'd have to
nostalgia.
I'd have to look that up. I mean, I assume
it's hard to tell these days. Actually,
I assume it was probably shot on digital. Like I'm guessing the rest of the show was, because I mean, they can do a lot. It was
beautiful. That's what I mean. I mean, it was really nice.
Yeah, they can do a lot of stuff even on digital to make it look, filmic and old style. It's not like years back where you could, tell something was shot digitally and it looked flat. Nowadays it's, they can do great stuff.
Just another little Easter egg for y'all. Nostalgia is the name of the perfume that Adrian Veidt made in the comic book. Yes. And in the opening of the movie, you see a big billboard for it, and comedian Eddie Blake is watching a commercial for it on TV.
Damon Lindelof brought that up on the podcast.
He did. Look at how smart I am.
You are super fucking smart.
I'm just proud of myself because I didn't know there was a podcast till today.
There's only 3 of them, so they're easy to listen to.
Treasures.
But that keeps them nice and focused too, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's great because those podcasts tackle 3 episodes at a time. And
let's just say they're available on Spotify and Apple. Go ahead, John.
Yeah. No, it's just, I know, especially after I watched episode 6, which is, and the one that I keep going on about with Will's story.
Right.
I was desperate for a deep dive into that after watching the episode, and so that's why the podcast was so great, because the second one came out right after that episode aired.
Yeah, I think that you could do a deep dive. We could do a deep dive on just that one episode.
I think we need that.
The idea of like a nostalgia trip being dangerous works on so many levels,
And also like just
An
the
ayahuasca
context and the secondary story within the story and the Minutemen. Like I could talk about the Minutemen for probably like a million hours too. So, I mean, we could definitely do something like that if we want to do a part 2.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm tapped out of my knowledge.
Well,
I don't know. You can
we
have
will
me if you want
definitely-
to, but you don't have to.
I love you, baby.
I love you too.
Bernie, I always love having you on. If you want to come, you're always welcome.
Just to make fun of you guys? All right, I'll do it.
All right. Awesome.
Plus, what'll be great about that is I'll have time to finish up the graphic novel by the time we do that. So.
Right on. And I might have time to reread it myself.
So, can we talk how much time we have left here? A couple minutes, 5 minutes?
Yeah.
So, what should we, is there another thing you're thinking about doing next, Steven? Like,
I mean, other than The Expanse, I don't have anything lined up yet. No. I'm hoping maybe to do, and I know that nerd,
yeah, sure.
but like people are talking about wanting to have Mandalorian coverage.
Mm-hmm.
People are talking about maybe his Dark Materials coverage. Although I got to say, I've fallen off of that show.
Well, let's see how it ends.
I'm a
But
few
season 2
episodes
is
behind.
already filmed and in the can, and they're already working on post-production of that because they didn't want Daphne Keane to grow up too much. And you saw her grow in the first season already.
Yeah.
So they filmed the second season. They greenlit the second season. Maybe I could see there could be only 2 seasons.
I'd say definitely, my vote would go for Mandalorian. And also, I don't know if you want to do anything about this, because I know that Kyle, the Azora Hype, is doing a lot with this, but he's gotten me interested in The Witcher. I haven't started watching it yet. But
I haven't watched it yet.
I've heard
I'm
bad
about to.
reviews about it.
It feels like you're playing the game. I watched 2 episodes last
Do
night.
you like
and
it?
This was me.
You like it? Was that
I don't know. I have no idea how I feel about it, because I literally feel like I'm watching in-game dialogue without having the X button to choose.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I think it's kind of
boring.
like,
So the boring thing is right. Is it boring?
yeah.
Here's the thing. Aziz said he really liked it.
yeah, I mean, everything I've seen for it, it looks really interesting to me. And
The trailer
Bernie-
looked really good. I
and
mean,
Bernie, you don't like it, so I think that's probably a good sign.
no,
for
I
you.
don't like it. No. I'm not deciding at all right now. I haven't watched it because I've been preparing for this stream, so I had something to talk about. But I'm going to watch it. But I saw some reviews that said it was boring, and I'm like, oh no. But I will try it. That doesn't mean I might like it. I mean, that means I can't say I wouldn't like it. Is what
I'll
I'm saying.
say this. I played the video game, part of the video game, trying to get through it before this came out. And I'm very interested to see where it goes, because I think it could be very good. But right now, I think they're just setting everything up. So take my word with a grain of salt, please.
Okay, no, I'll give it a shot. I'm not gonna. I don't want to listen to what fucking critics say, because I don't always fucking agree with critics. Like some of my favorite movies have like a 5.7 rating. I'll be forget it. People, they don't know what they're talking about sometimes.
Correct.
I will try it.
So I'm done with Watchmen then. Sanri, I promised to keep it to 2 hours. We're showing 1 hour and 58 right now. So that gives me 2 minutes to do the wrap up.
Close it up, bitch.
All right. First of all, let's get a good look at this artwork. I love it.
It's beautiful.
Gorgeous.
This mirrors are hard to paint.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think you captured it really, really well.
I absolutely love this character. He was the Rorschach of this series for me. So this is my little piece for him.
Misclick.
And
There
that's
we
a
go.
shout out to human bean juice with the blood, which is what reoccurring theme in the original Watchmen.
Right on, right on. Well, thanks for coming. Thanks for doing the artwork for us. I love it as always. I've said it before many times. Your use of color consistently blows me away.
Thank you. I try very hard.
So that having been said, though, yeah, guys, everybody in the chat, thanks for coming by. To all my panelists, John, Bernie, Rorschach, Cian.
Nobody said anything the whole time.
Right.
And Matthew Good can do no wrong.
Okay. To be continued. But yes, thanks to everybody for joining us. And again, if you're watching this not live, we didn't go on the normal day. We went when we could get everybody. We'll be back. John and Bernie will be back next week, I assume, for our next Expanse stream. Sanri will have you back as soon as you can fit it into your schedule. I know you're super busy right now working on a highfalutin television project and all that stuff. So.
Well, we can tell them. Right now, I'm basically doing the backgrounds for season 11 of Archer, which is super, super cool.
Really?
Yeah. Hang on, Bernie. I'll get it.
Oh no.
Yeah, we done a lot.
It's really hard.
I can't talk about it because I'm under an NDA. But we're doing
sucks.
a lot of scenes, and I have many, many hours. You guys watch me paint live, so you know Photoshop is like my sweet, sweet mistress. I can make it do anything. But let me tell you, when I have to send those boys like 500 layer comps, it gets complicated.
Wow.
My work, and they've been super amazing and easy to work with. They're based in Atlanta, Georgia, which is kind of cool.
Nice.
Not too far from Aziz and crew, so.
Right.
Sweet. Yeah. Very, very impressive.
So, you guys are going to see some of my work on the television set.
Amazing. Right? Amazeballs.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, I'll point it out for you guys.
Hence, a very, very busy young lady.
Yes.
But we're going to have you back as soon as your schedule opens up a little bit.
Yep.
And we've talked about maybe what to talk about when that happens, so we'll see.
Yep. Always interested if anybody wants me to speak on anything or yammer on about Watchmen or anything else, just you let me know.
Yep. And there's, again, all of us are active on Twitter, so do the Twitter thing.
Twitter.
Burn one down.
Yep.
John Webster Film.
Real Steven Stark. All the links are down in the description for everybody too. So until then, you guys know what comes next. Peace.
Peace.
And be excellent to each other.
Don't be a dick.
Bye, guys.
Bye.